I am back, and I have some nice hot Casey's pizza waiting for me. I thought I would go over this real quick. I mentioned in the previous video, which I made 2 seconds ago, that I had this discussion with a console fan since 1983, a moderator on theforce.net. Had a discussion about alt-writers, which I'm not an alt-writer. As you can see here, I'll go ahead and go over what she said, he or she. Still unclear on that one. Alt-writers are not always as extreme as wanting an ethno-state for whites. That is the argument I made. Richard Spencer has argued that he wants an ethno-state for whites. He basically wants races separated. Never said he wants one race killed, but he thinks they do not get along enough to be mixed together, which I can kind of see his argument there. I don't agree, but he's coming from a place where historically people have not gotten along when you mix different races, different cultures together. Anyway, to continue, anyone who thinks white people are superior to people of color, including the thinking that white people should always be considered the default and a hero role, or anyone who thinks that men are superior to women and that women need to learn their place, can be considered to have alt-right leanings. Let's unpack that very lengthy sentence. People typically think that whatever color they are, they think that's superior. Black people probably think black people are superior, or white people probably think white people are superior. If not superior, then the default, the type of people they are comfortable being around. That's why there are hangout places where black people hang out as groups, black neighborhoods where it's majority black people. They're comfortable being around people like themselves, which is human nature. I don't think anyone was arguing that white people are superior to people of color. And if somebody did make that argument, I would ask, how do you define superiority? Superior in what way? Statistically, people of color do have differences from what they consider white people. I don't think any of those differences would place one group as being superior in any way over the other. So I don't think anyone was arguing that in this thread. As far as men who think women need to learn their place, I don't know any men who think that, who aren't over the age of 70. So this comes up a lot in threads where I talk with feminists about the genders, and I hear men are telling women that they need to learn their place, they need to go back in the kitchen, whatever. I've never seen a man say that in a serious manner. The arguments, continuing with what he or she is saying, the arguments by people who call themselves the anti-SJW usually have not always view the white heterosexual male as default hero, and view strong historic portrayals outside the traditional stereotype of women, people of color, or LGBT people as pandering. I don't consider that mindset too far from the alt-right. Wrong. 100% wrong. I don't consider myself anti-SJW, but I definitely am fans of several YouTube personalities who are anti-SJW, and they consider pandering when you are pandering. When you have a person of color, a woman, or an LGBT person seen as superior to everybody else. That's pandering. Or when you change a traditionally heterosexual white character into a person of color or an LGBTQ person. Stupid thing turned off. That is pandering. But most of the ones I've listened to, and most people I know, love female heroes. They love heroes of color. I mean, they're huge fans of the Alien movies, the hero was a female, Ripley. Huge fan of the Blade movies. Hero was a person of color. Yeah, I have never seen somebody argue that that whites should be the default hero. So that is a bunk argument. So anyway, I responded to her from an earlier thread. It's possible for the franchise to appeal to both men and women at the same time. Example, Star Wars. And I said, yet Kathleen Kennedy feels a need to change Star Wars to appeal to women, which is true. She said, I don't know. I, as a woman, could possibly be a 40-year-long fan of a franchise that apparently needed to change to appeal to me. Star Wars has always had female fans. Which is true. You know, the vast majority are male. But it's always had female fans. Definitely. I don't know if I'm a terrible reader or what, but when I read stuff from certain people online, it just comes off as sounding wrong. So if I read something and it sounds wrong, that's either, because it is wrong, or I'm being a retard. Anyway, regarding KK and her feminist agenda versus depicting, I misspelled that. Good female characters. Keep in mind the name of the game in modern Star Wars, or social justice and feminists, is representation. It only matters that females or minorities are represented, not that they're good characters. That's true. What do we hear from Kathleen Kennedy and the people behind Star Wars? Pat us on the back. We are so diverse. We don't hear, we have these great characters and it's a person of color. We have this great character. She's female. Here's what's great about her. No, we hear, we have characters that are people of color. We have characters that are female. We're so diverse. We're awesome. We're going to push boundaries because there have never been women or people of color in films before this point. I'm a modern feminist, so you don't need to mansplain to me what the name of the game for modern feminists is. And you're 100% wrong about what modern feminists want. Go back and read the rest of my post if you want to know what modern feminists want. What you did is the equivalent of a man writing about what women want and telling a woman who disputes his claims that he is wrong and does not know what women want. Bullshit. Sorry, but feminists are not all women. I did not say this is what women want. I said this is what feminism pushes for. This is what feminists like Kathleen Kennedy, since we're talking about Star Wars, pushes for. So anyway, what she did was the equivalent of saying, "You're a man. You don't tell me that my views are wrong. That is not allowed. That is called mansplaining." And I was very polite. I said, we'll have to agree to disagree. The whitest default argument comes from SJWs, where many the anti-SJWs love good, strong women and minority leads and see pushing women and minorities just to have them as pandering. And I responded to her, I, as a man, am more than capable of interpreting the actions of and words of modern feminists. Maybe you should worry more about changing the public perceptions of feminism and not degrading and shaming men, mansplaining, for having different views. And her response, I'd love to see one quote from a so-called SJW in which he or she says white is default. Come on. That is totally the SJW argument, that white people think white is default. That comes from the SJWs. I don't know a single white person who said white is default in entertainment and that we have to have white heroes, and if we don't have white heroes, I'm not going to support this. I've never heard that. There have been black heroes in comic books, film, television, books, anything for decades. The issue with the so-called anti-SJWs is the idea that inclusion of good characters is somehow anti-ethical to the inclusion of women and minorities. Bullshit. In other words, the idea that women and minorities cannot default be good characters. Again, go back to the example of Ripley from the Aliens films, Blade, Lando Calrissian, countless others that are slipping my mind right now because I'm being a retard. I'm sorry, I'm being an exceptional person. Yeah, there is. I don't know a single person who has said that they cannot have good characters that are women or minorities. No one ever accuses a writer of pandering when he or she casts all or mostly white males. When is the last time Peter Jackson got accused of pandering? Oh my god. If she's talking about the Lord of the Rings, I'm sorry, but yeah, they were mostly white because, it's historical. It's a European fantasy, and white people have historically been all that there was in Europe at the time. If you have a problem with that, take it up with J.R.R. Tolkien, who wrote those stories. And also there were plenty of females in the Lord of the Rings movies. I don't know what she's talking about here. As far as whether they're accused of pandering, he's accused of pandering. No, he wasn't accused of pandering. He was accused of being a racist piece of shit. So whether you want to place that in the same category as being accused of pandering or not, he was definitely criticized. And yes, if you're going to tell an actual feminist that you know more about what feminism wants than she does, that's textbook mansplaining. I'm sorry, you might call yourself a feminist, but you apparently know nothing about feminism. If you don't understand what their goals are, the goal of feminism, if you don't understand what the leaders in the feminist movement have pushed for and what they advocate, which you apparently don't. You just know, hey, I'm a feminist, this is what I want, therefore this is what feminism wants. If you're more comfortable with your own negative perceptions of feminism than with the idea of learning what feminists are actually fighting for, that's completely on you and not at all the fault of feminism or feminists. No, it's the fault of a movement to explain what they're fighting for and correct any misperceptions that people have. I mean, that's assuming they want to be effective in their advocacy. I mean, if they don't, if they want to just live in their little thought bubble, then that's on them. It's not the job of feminists to make you feel better about what feminists fight for or to convince you that the false perceptions that you stubbornly cling to are wrong. Again, look at what feminists fight for. Look at what lead feminists say. And I think you'll find that in any regard, she's not given me any indication of what feminists fight for other than mansplaining or having more representation, which is not anything anyone has argued is bad. Everybody loves representation. I've never, and I'm sure there are white people out there who think, I want all white characters in what I watch. I don't know any. I am not degrading or shaming men because you do not speak for all men. Oh my God. So you speak for all feminists, you speak for all women, but I do not speak for all men when I say you're degrading and shaming men. Nice logic there. By any stretch of the imagination, in fact, you do not speak for for most of the men who post here. Well, thanks for clarifying. Thanks for letting me know that you speak for all women. And I don't speak for all men. which I never claimed I did. I certainly don't speak for all men, but mansplaining is a term that is used to degrade and shame men. I'm sorry if you don't understand that, but that's on you. Anyway, this has gone on long enough, a long 15 minutes of me rambling and sounding like a goofball. If you have any comments, please feel free to write them below. I'd love to hear people's thoughts on this. Am I blowing a... am I making a mountain out of a tiny little anthill, or am I being goofy and silly, or am I in the right here? Anyway, feel free to comment. Thank you very much.